What's going on, guys? We are doing the E90 kit install. This is going to be very similar to the E80 overview that you saw that we collaborated with Chris Knapp on. But in this case, we're going to do a full in-depth install. Laid out on the table, I have the passenger side of an E90. Currently, we have a, what is this? E92? Is that what it is? 335i. On the hoist, we have an E92 that this kit was actually just installed on, and for the purpose of this video, I took it off. We're gonna go over it, and then we're gonna show you how to install it properly. At this end of the table, I have the knuckle and the knuckle adapter. We're gonna talk about in depth how to cut the knuckle, where to cut the knuckle, and how to make sure that the installation process there goes smoothly. The next part is the lower control arm. It has an on-car adjustable caster mount that will require some explaining on-car. You'll see that later in this video. It comes with a tie rod adapter for the outer, and it comes with adjustable caster plates where you can change the track width, camber, and the kingpin inclination, all from this top plate. We're gonna show you how to utilize these in the best way and how to do this install in depth. Let's go out to the shop. Okay, I'm gonna hold something because I gotta do something with my hands. Okay, so we're out here at the E92 on the hoist. As I said, we already had this kit installed, so I'm going to show you the already cut knuckle.
But if someone doesn't obviously have a bandsaw, what would be the best option to...
Honestly, just because it's an aluminum knuckle, I would say just sawzall it would probably be the easiest. If you tried to zip cut it, just because aluminum's so gummy and stuff, it'll try to bite on you and kind of pull its way through and stuff. So I would say a sawzall. You could probably even get away with like a wood blade just because it is aluminum, but it doesn't take a whole lot to cruise through it. But obviously if you have a bandsaw, that's gonna be the move. Big cut. We'll just go clean this up, give it a little flop wheel, take off all the sharp edges.
The way that you want to cut this knuckle is basically anywhere below the bearing bolt holes can be removed. There's quite a bit of variance here where you can cut. It really isn't that critical. As long as you have some material below the bottom hole, you're going to be just fine. The important thing though, is you can see how there's two spots where we flattened. This spot here and this spot here. That is so the adapter sits perfectly flat, and you're gonna notice that it sits flat because it's gonna line up with the brake caliper mount nicely as well. Once you've gotten this set up and you have it sitting nice and flat, you can go ahead and tighten these bearing bolts down. You can save the caliper mount until you put the calipers on. Once you've gotten the knuckle clearance properly, you want to torque these bolts down to factory torque spec, which is 81 foot-pounds. And that is probably the hardest part about the full install on this kit. You can set this aside now that you've gotten this out of the way, because your next order of business is going to be locating and cutting the material for clearance on your caster plates. These caster plates give you the ability to run multiple different settings. For this kit and with the mega control arms, which are the longest control arms that we offer, you're going to be installing these in the furthest out position. And I'll show you how these go on the car. So the caster plates are going to be installed underneath the car in an orientation that locates the coilover forward and out. So it's going to be under the car, and your coilover is going to be in this area, right where this plate was spot welded in. What you're gonna do is take the plates apart. They come assembled like this. Once you've taken the plate apart, you're left with this. So originally there was a mounting block here. This mounting block needs to be removed. You can simply just drill out the spot welds so that you have a flat surface here now. Then you're gonna take the plate and you're gonna line it up with the holes in the chassis and with the holes in the plate. This is gonna give you a nice area where you can clearly scribe with a marker where you need to cut. Marker, Kyle. So as I said, just as a reminder, you're going to be installing the bearing in its furthest out position. Okay, so I've locked that down on the caster plate. I'm now going to put our plate on top of the coilover. I took the factory one that came on the coilover off. This one simply just goes on in its replacement. Once you have it on, you just want to make sure that you do have pretty good articulation and that it's not going to bind on anything. Now that you've gotten that connected, you can go ahead and install it on the car. Okay, so I've got the 3 bolts loosely installed. You can see that there is caster adjustment available here. This is going to change your caster a maximum of 2 degrees total, so plus or minus 1 degree. And then the spacer that you saw on top of the plate, the spacer is designed to give you clearance to the tower's sheet metal so that you're able to do this movement. Otherwise, the plate is too wide and it would be hitting the radius of the sheet metal here on the tower. So that's what that spacer's for. We're gonna leave that loose for now while we start installing the rest of the components. So the next thing I'm gonna do is just connect the knuckle to the strut. Hanging it this way makes it really easy to swing and connect to the lower control arm and other components. We're gonna go ahead and torque this bolt down to 59 foot-pounds. Throw in the lower control arm. You're just gonna have to take the zip ties off, and then I usually take these spacers out because they're probably just gonna fall out when you go to put the arm in. The install should be relatively easy, especially if you keep this joint just a little free. Now that the lower control arm is installed, you can kind of see how everything's going to be working. This caster adjuster uses the jam nut to keep the arm in place, but if you loosen the jam nut off and you back out the adjuster, you'll notice at this point it's going to be moving the wheel back and forward, all with the adjustment here at this point. So for now, we're going to leave it relatively loose just so that we can easily manipulate it and install the other components. Next, we're going to make the connection to the knuckle. And then you'll be able to see that the kit's really starting to come together. And everything installed loosely, you can see where and how everything's going to work. You can see where the bump stop's going to be contacting the control arm, and how that's going to be adjustable. So I can turn it in, I can get more angle, I can turn it out, and I will get less. The next thing to do is going to be connecting the inner tie rod using our outer tie rod adapter. With everything installed loosely, that basically concludes the installation of the E90 FDF Mega Mantis kit. Obviously put the rotor, caliper, wheel, and everything back on the way that you took it off. So here I'm just going to talk about the Ackerman adjustment point, because that's really the only other questions that we see often to do with our angle kits. And from there, feel free to comment any additional questions that we may be able to address by email or just in the comments. On the E90 kit, because it is a front steering rack, if you want to increase positive Ackerman, you're going to be moving the outer tie rod towards the wheel. So you'll be installing these Ackerman plates in this orientation, which is going to move the outer tie rod out. And if you want to decrease Ackerman, you're going to be moving the outer tie rod towards the engine, and you're going to be installing these plates like this. When you install these plates to lower your Ackerman, you're actually going to have to shorten your tie rod as well. And when you increase this plate to increase positive Ackerman, you'll actually need to lengthen the tie rod itself. Doing this is going to be changing the toe at lock, which is what we all call Ackerman. On this kit, on the Ackerman settings, we actually set it up so that you cannot go into the negative Ackerman position. The adjustment points on this kit are going to be 0, which would be the Ackerman plate installed in this orientation with the tie rod at its shortest length. That's going to be 0 Ackerman. +2 will be the middle hole plates, which generally come installed on the kit itself when you receive it. And then +4 is going to be this position, which is all the way towards the wheel. This position is more commonly used in racing and road applications than it is used in drifting. On this kit, the ideal alignment settings are going to be around 7 degrees caster, -4 camber, and slight toe out. About 1/8 of an inch toe out, actually. That concludes the install on our E90 kit. Hopefully that answers a lot of your questions on this new product that we just came out with. We're trying to cover all the bases while coming out with these products as fast as they are demanded by customers. We also want to make sure that they get installed correctly as well. Thank you for your feedback on the few that have gotten the kit already, and hopefully this helps everyone after.